Hello, everybody. We are Bridging Realms with Melody Pash, and this is Jill and Darla, my team. Say hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
And we are going to share a
Hello.
dream today about, well, it's kind of about baseball. It's not really about baseball, but it's going to be a dream called, what is that dream called? Waiting for the baseball game to begin. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the dream. It's a very interesting dream because you've got lots of elements in it. They don't all tie together. So it's a bit of a kind of a fun little enigma. So we'll see what God is saying in this, but it is a good one. It's just kind of packed with lots of random stuff. So, all righty. The dreamer says, I dreamed I went to Ben's baseball game in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I was sitting in the stands. I was putting on makeup in my seat, getting ready for the game. I seemed to really be applying a lot of blush. There was really applying blush. I was on the right hand side of the bleachers and thought, maybe I need to be more toward the center of the stands to see better. So she's rethinking her positioning here. I see a car in front of me backing into water near the right side of the field. Two young women fall in along with the car. They all fall into the lake. They seem to swim fine, so I don't have to rescue them. They ask where dry land is, and I point where it is. They seem to be fine. Next, Samuel has a jewelry headpiece like a necklace on his head, and someone has put another piece of jewelry on him, and she's upset because Samuel is her son and she doesn't want the feminine stuff on him. I motion for my husband to come over and tell him that I don't like what they're doing to Samuel. The baseball team we were playing was in opposition to our team, which is called the Christians. The opposition had been horrifically murdering Christians. This is something that the dreamer is aware of and had seen in a vision in the dream by beheading and chopping them up. And the only way for these two people groups, these two different teams, to be at peace or to come together in a place of peace was on the baseball field. That was the only place that was neutral ground for them so that they could actually do something without fighting, from what I understand. Okay, so let's start back at the beginning. So she dreams that she goes to Ben's baseball game and she's sitting in the stands waiting for the game to start. And she's putting on her makeup in her seat, getting ready. So she's getting prepared. I seem to really be applying blush. I was on the right side and thought, maybe I should move more towards the center of the stands so that I can see better or have better perspective. So she's thinking about repositioning. Okay. All right. So she's waiting for the event to begin, which is a sporting event. And the teams are Christians and the opposition to Christians. She's putting on her makeup, but she's highlighting and emphasizing that she was putting blush on. And then she's thinking about moving from the right side to more of the center for repositioning for better access, better viewing. All right, ladies, what do you think?
Well, a baseball game is usually, it represents what's going on in your life or the nation as a whole. Um, so yeah, I think that this is an event that's coming up that might be something that is important, that is specific in the dreamer's life. So she's getting ready for that. And when it talks about putting makeup on, usually that has to do with your face, which is part of your heart. It represents your heart or your mindsets. And so she's putting on makeup, she's getting ready to face that challenge or that event. So it's all preparation for her right at the moment. So um, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Also, excuse me. Yeah, also she's the makeup. We can also tie makeup into your DNA. It's part of your makeup. So a play on words, and she's in her seat, but she's preparing, as you said, Jill, she's preparing for this event or this challenge. And yeah, I do think it could be corporate for sure. She emphasizes that she was putting on the blush, which typically is, a blush. We think of a blushing bride, or, we're talking about health and beauty and um, being in a place of wellness. And let's see, where was I? Let's see. And she says she's on the right side. And she's thinking that she might need to move to the center. The center is going to be about being centered, more centered rather than to the right. So if you're right, Jill, and it's corporate, we're talking about like the nation or the globe, then she's wanting not to be too far to the right because her views are not going to be as clear. She's not going to have as clear a perspective of the game. So she's thinking she should be a bit more centered. And I'm wondering if this is about not only people in the nation, but also people in traditional religion or the church, where they're busy preparing for the challenge, but they're not even positioned correctly. So they're needing to adjust their positioning. Darla, you got any thoughts on that?
It just occurred to me as you were talking baseball. Does it matter that it's a baseball diamond? Does diamond play into the foundation?
Well, the diamond is the logistics of the game. They call it a baseball field, so we're probably talking more about in a field, because she never really talks about the plays of the game. She never really goes into the game. It's like she's there before the game begins. So if we're listening to what the dreamer's saying, we're talking more about, again, the field, because she's talking about, I wonder if I should be more in the center so that I can see the whole field rather than be so far to the right. And she may be talking about a field of trade, a field where she, something that she occupies. Again, if this is corporate, the field could be most any structure or system that we're connected to.
Yeah, and I think that being centered would be important because you have to be able to negotiate with others, other plays. So I would think that would be very necessary to be pretty centered then.
Well, and I think centered is more foundational than being so far to the right or to the left, which we
Right.
in the nation definitely have an issue with. People seem to be they swing way to the right or way to the left, but no one, few seem to be really standing well centered, um,
Yeah.
where they're foundationally in a good place, where they're, as you say, Jill, able to negotiate both sides. You have to be in the center and you have to be somewhat neutral. I'm not saying you don't take a stand. I'm saying you have to be in the center if you're going to be able to negotiate between the right and the left. What if this is also about those who mediate and intercede for both the right
Ah.
and the left?
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a beefy one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, the other thing about the blush is, when I heard this dream, I immediately heard Jezebel getting ready, because Jezebel was busy putting her makeup on when Jehu came for a visit to throw her down. And so I'm wondering if this is also connected to control and manipulation on either the far right, far left side. And the redemption of it is the innocence of being a blushing bride, or being healthy, being in that place where you're centered, you're balanced. There's some balance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there seems to be
I-
a lot of control and manipulation on either side of the platform, right?
Right, right. Well, I really liked the fact when you said that it could be intercession, because that definitely would be this front and center
Yeah,
for
absolutely. You're right.
any spiritual climate, whatever's going on.
Exactly.
So
And when you're interceding, you're not interceding just for the benefit of those who are on the right side of things, those who are righteous.
right,
You're also interceding for the Lord to move in the hearts of those who are
right.
not on the right side, but are far left, far liberal.
Yeah. So
maybe
that
that-
positioning, is very important, to be centered and to have your seat of
Yeah.
authority there.
Oh, yeah.
And where she's making her stand, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's preparing. She's preparing for the challenge. She's getting ready for the fight.
Right.
As Jill said at some point, reminded her of, getting ready for the battle, like putting your war paint on or something, but getting ready for the battle. But she's preparing for the battle, preparing for the fight. And that is also what the intercessors do.
Yeah.
They fight on behalf of the purposes of God, to see the manifestation of the purposes of God. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so then she says, I see a car in front of me backing into water, like into the lake, near the right side of the field. Now, we're still talking about the right side of the field, which the right side is also the natural side of things, and the left side is more the spiritual side of things as well. But we're looking at this, in multiple ways, because God is multifaceted and he's good at multitasking. So he's getting things done on lots of levels here. That's why it's so beefy. Then two women fall in to the lake along with the car. They're backing into the lake, and then they fall in with the car. They seem to swim fine. Listen to what the dreamer says. The dreamer says, so I didn't have to rescue them. They ask where dry land is, and I point where the land is, and they are fine. So going back is going to be focused on the past. It's going to be something focusing on the past, and they may have been trying to get to the spirit of things, but taking a car certainly in reverse, where you're reverting back to things in your past, is not a good place to be. So the car falls in because it's not a marine vehicle and it's not aquatic, right? And then they fall in. But the dreamer says, and this is interesting, she states that they were able to swim and they were fine. So there was no reason for her to step into the obligation of trying to rescue them. You guys have some other pieces on that?
Well, for me, what first came to mind was the blind leading the blind, where they fall into a ditch. And so, yeah, backing in, usually you face your danger, when you're driving, you don't back into danger, or you don't back into the unknown, because that's like burying your head in the sand. It's not facing up to what's going on. So yeah, they kind of had a problem there, but they did know how to swim, so they were being forced to swim, but not being able to find their way. So still asking for direction, that sounds a lot like some of the church. People that, that should know and still, are struggling. You tell them and you tell them, and they still, still need that help.
Right. You're right. Yeah, that reverting back, and that again ties into the church. How many times do we need to be healed and delivered? And, it's like we revert back because we are focused on our trauma rather than focused on the healer, right?
Yeah,
When
sure.
we're focused on the healer, you're not standing in the midst of that trauma or whatever your injury or your wounding is. And yeah, you're right, Jill. They were forced to swim. They knew how to swim. They were forced to swim. That whole paragraph to me seems like a bit of a distraction that the dreamer did not fall for. And then the two women, again, as the church, asking, where's dry ground? It's like all around you. Where's safe? Where's land? Where's safety on land? It's all around you. But you're missing it because you're looking at the past. Maybe that reverting is looking at regret and remorse, shame from the past, things that they cannot get their focus off of. And it just causes them to be flighty. But that's the way some people are in the church. Some people are they want to preach to you, but they can't show you how to get free because they themselves are yet not free. Where's the safety of
Yeah, that
land?
makes perfect sense.
Right? It's right there. It's all around you. The safety is all around you. The land is all around you. The only reason you wound up in the lake was because you were reverting to the past.
Yeah. I wonder also if maybe it's codependency too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's two of them together and they both fell in, um, both in the same situation. So,
Absolutely right. And I definitely feel like that's accurate, Jill, because yeah, you've got a partnership there. You've got an agreement there. It was two, not one. And thank goodness the dreamer did not fall for that distraction. So those two women might have even been a familiar spirit, from the generational line, that codependence in the generational line that needs to be dealt with, and has been so strong in the past. And she did a great job because she did not fall for, oh gosh, I got to go rescue them, because she's not in the middle or in the agreement of that codependence. Praise God. She has gotten past that. She's gotten healed of that. She got delivered of that. She said, they swam just fine. They didn't need me. And isn't that the way? Shouldn't that be the way we look sometimes at people in the church? It's like, yes, I will pray for you, but I also need you to receive. And I also need you to, you need to also get your focus off of, that, your car just fell in the water, and look forward, move forward, as Jill was saying.
oh,
And
yeah.
yes, there's danger even in the forward motion. If you're taking breath, drawing breath, you're in danger of something. But the whole issue is that trusting the Lord, being prepared for the battle, and trusting the Lord, right? So good job. Darla, were you going to say something and I interrupted? No?
No, this is such good information for someone preparing. I mean, to have all of this laid out right in front of them, it's amazing.
That's good, isn't it? It's packed. The stream is packed. I'm telling you. Yeah, and I love the part that Jill brought up about the codependence, because it's definitely an agreement. Okay, so the next is Samuel, who is another. They're at Ben's baseball game. Okay, doesn't Benjamin mean right hand of God? Somebody
Yeah.
look that up. Okay.
Yeah, it
and
means
this is
son of my right hand.
okay. All right. So the baseball game is about the I think it is about the intercession, ladies, because the right hand being the natural, but also think of the arm of the Lord, like his hand, his hand or his arm, which comes against the enemy. I'm wondering if that also ties in. Benjamin was also the awaited promise. Rachel waited a very long time in bitter sadness for Benjamin, and he was the promise. And then he actually went through all of the woundings and all of the challenges of his life, and yeah, wound up. Okay, I'm telling two stories. I have to back up. Anyway, Rachel was Benjamin's mother, right? Benjamin was the youngest of, yes,
Yes.
Reuben.
Joseph.
Yes.
Joseph and Benjamin.
Yeah, and wasn't Reuben their father? So I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. Okay. So
Reuben's
he
their
was
brother. Reuben's not their father. Jacob is their father.
Jacob. Yeah.
Jacob is their father. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Benjamin was the promise, which represents what happened to Joseph in the palace, where he was able to feed all of the nation as well as his family. So that's what the intercession is about. It's about what's coming in the next generations. There's a lot there because this is very generational too, right? So next, Samuel. Samuel represented the prophet who
And
anointed and commissioned kings, right? And
right.
somebody has put jewelry on his head and other pieces of jewelry. And the dreamer, who is the mother, gets tweaked by this and is angry that they put feminine elements on him. And she motions for her husband to come. And she's telling them, I don't like what they're doing to Samuel. I don't like what they're doing. I feel like husband is, husband could be Jesus here, but she's worried about her son, Samuel, that prophetic gifting, because of a false identity, which she sees as a false identity being placed upon him, right? But if this is corporate and we're talking even nationally, then it could tie into the sort of the forcing of the transgenderism and that kind of thing, which definitely makes sense. But I'm wondering too if the redemption of that, because the Lord calls us living stones and we are gems. We are gems. So I'm wondering if those gems were not about an attempt to, or at least the redemption of it is not an attempt to make Samuel confused about his identity and his prophetic gifting, as much as it was an honoring with the gems, which are the gifts, the other gifts from God. So I'm wondering if it's about more gifts, and she was responding in what she knows, right? Intellectually, what she knows. What do you guys think about that?
Well, my first thought was the story of Samuel, which his name means God has heard. And it ties back to the story of Hannah. And she gave Samuel to the priesthood. She gave him Samuel back to the Lord. And so that was an offering. And anyway, the favor of the Lord was upon Samuel. And that would represent also all of the gems and everything that that would represent as far as gifting and intuition and the prophecy as a prophet. So he was definitely blessed. And the dreamer here doesn't understand that all of these gems are a blessing, and it's just not what she expected or how she expected them to look. And so oftentimes I think we are misled by our own intuitions and our own ideas as to how things should look when the Lord does bless us. And so that might be part of that too. But it was definitely a blessing, which she mistook for something else, that the purpose was different than what she had thought.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
And maybe
go ahead, Darla.
And maybe a confirmation too of, God has heard, well, who does he hear? He hears the prayers and the hearts of people who are interceding. And those, when the more you talk about gems, the more I see a crown, and I don't know.
And they did put a necklace on his head.
So a crown, on his crown. So the crown is obviously already in his DNA and established, but now they're adding, the blessings. You're seeing the blessings of them.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness for confirmations, because like you said, this dream is so meaty. There's so much here. We need the clues and the confirmation. But
Mhm.
that was another example too of when we dream and when we interpret through our own emotions, and our, sometimes old things pop up that they just have no place there, which is another plug for unity, that you have to know who you share these things with, because we've all had dreams that we think, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like one of the favorite old standbys is, I had a dream that my best friend slept with the preacher. And so you don't run around saying, oh my gosh, she's sleeping with the preacher. That has nothing to do with what the dream was about.
Yeah.
But the dream was about this coming alongside in ministry. So all moving forward, all positive, and all just like the Lord, in his goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback on what you were saying, Darla, about, a lot of times people will, and I will ask a lot of times, what's your impression of the dream? I'm not really asking what your emotion was in the dream. I'm asking, what was your impression of the dream as the dreamer? But a lot of times the dreamer will feel like their emotion is what drives the interpretation. And you can have inaccurate emotions, as you just said, that are connected to soulish issues, traumas of the past, all kinds of things that have nothing to do with what's going on in the dream. And then the enemy will use those things to distract you from the true message of the dream, which will always have redemption. It will always, Jesus is always bringing the redemption. Yeah, that is so good. That's such a good point. And people really need, and we might even want to do a podcast just on that subject, because that is something that people have a hard time letting go of, what their emotions are in the dream. And I understand it colors the way you look at things. Sometimes you have to, let it go for a little while and go back to it, because you do have emotions and triggers that are connected to it. And you need to learn to compartmentalize and to look objectively and pragmatically at what's happening in the dream, rather than assuming that because your emotion was negative or positive, that that's driving the accuracy of the message, because that is not always true. In fact, rarely true. Rarely true. Okay, so then the baseball team they were playing was in opposition to their team. The home team was called the Christians, and the opposition had been horrifically murdering Christians. In other words, whatever the name of the opposing team was, in a vision, the dreamer sees that they had literally been murdering and beheading Christians. So the only way, she says, the only way they operated neutrally or in peace and civility was when they were on the baseball field during a baseball game. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. For one thing, when you're in a game, you have to play by the rules. So they would be forced to be playing by the rules. So they would not be able to take advantage and do all their illegal acts. They would be hampered by that. So that's probably one of the reasons why. And also the fact that this ties in to the intercessory prayer, because, she was preparing for this game and this game. Spiritually, you have to prepare. You have to get the groundwork, and spiritually, you have to be involved in order for the outcome to be the way that you want it to end. So it takes some interaction. So not only is she sitting on the stands, but she's also involved in, very much involved in what's going on with the game.
Absolutely.
And how it's going to turn out.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I also feel like the being centered is very, very important there, because as you say, Jill, they have to play by the rules while they're in the game. But if the baseball field, that field is the only place where they are neutral and they can operate together in peace, then doesn't it make sense that the prophetic intercessor would be centered there, where she can declare to both sides, the opposition and the home team, everything that is God's heart and God's intent to bring unity and to heal the chasm that's between these two people groups. That is really a good dream.
Yeah. And being a baseball game too, in baseball, you're talking about warfare. You're talking about playing the game, and whether you have strikes or home runs or bases filled or whatever, you're talking about, could be even like the nation. We've got the left and the right, and you need to be centered in order to negotiate with both sides, like we were saying earlier.
Absolutely.
So it'd be really important that the game is played fairly, and in order to do that, you've got to enforce those rules. So
Right,
and you can only.
Yeah, and isn't that what the prophetic intercessor does? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
That reminds me of people like, say, Charlie Kirk, and some of those people who actually talk to like sort of both sides of the row. He goes to like university campuses and he talks to people on the right and on the left. But he just listens. He listens, but he also speaks out very strongly truth. And truth is what brings change to the heart of those that oppose righteousness. It's only truth, which is why they have to be led by Holy Spirit, which is all truth, right? So yeah, you would have to be centered and be able to enforce. You're absolutely right. That prophetic intercessor is busy, and she's also a watchman. So she's busy, declaring to both sides God's heart and intention for them, so that they can be healed, and so that unity in the nation could happen, because we are definitely still at the moment split down the middle, aren't we?
Yeah. Yep, that's good.
That is really good. That is really good. Yeah, this little dream had a lot of meat. And you think about the opposition murdering the Christians. Christianity has so much, and just conservatism has so much opposition right now in the nation, where people are going after them for just it's rage, it's outrage. because they're so angry about what's going on and about the righteousness that they're seeing in the operation and the things that are going on in the nation. And finally, some things are getting dealt with. And yeah, the opposition is really upset about that. So they want to kill everybody. They're angry about that. They want to kill everybody and get rid of them. Yeah, that is really good. Such a good dream.
Yeah, and
You
they
guys,
they really don't mind saying what their intentions are either. They use the slander, but they also talk about taking them out. And that's pretty bold speaking. I mean, that's the intent of the heart, and that's really coming to the forefront. So it's a pretty serious game that we are in.
yeah,
Because it affects our future generations. So it's really important that we have people in the stand that are centered and that are interceding uh, for the future generations, and also our immediate future, because there is change happening right along.
yeah, yeah. And you're right about the enforcement. If the church doesn't start standing, being in the stance, being in the game, even, and enforcing what's going on, what's kingdom, for the earth, we're going to continue just as we have, which is, sort of that oblivion where a lot of the traditional body of Christ has been, our traditional religion has been a bit sleepy, on the sleepy side, and missing some things. But it is the Lord gave us all power and authority in the earth. So it is our obligation, our responsibility to take care of and to enforce His desires and His purposes in the earth. That's our job. It's our job. So I love that she was thinking that she had to have a better perspective, being centered. That was so good. There's just so much here. I'm looking back through, and there's so much here. And even the necklace on Samuel's head, the necklace is about your will. It's about your will. But it was placed upon his head, which, as you said, Darla, was like placing a crown upon his head, because that was authority. That is authority.
Yeah, that's also your mindset too. So you got to
Absolutely.
have that kingdom mindset.
That is absolutely true. I love this. I love this dream. This is a good one for sure. You guys have any other thoughts on this? There's so much. It's like the more you look at it, the more you can see. But there's a lot here, isn't there?
Yeah, and what about, she saw beheadings. The head, we know you can't live without your head, no matter what kind of system you are.
Right.
So the head of us is Jesus Christ the righteous. Not that obviously there are martyrs that have lost their heads, but He died and rose again, and gave us that redeemed life. So like you were mentioning, the different layers that, personally, nobody wants to lose their head, for goodness sakes, but everyone who did is redeemed. But the system, if the system's head is gone, and then to go even farther and chop it up, that's like so overkill. Sorry, overdone.
Well, I do want to interject that, and I'm not playing devil's advocate here. Maybe I'm playing angel's advocate. I don't know. But, it might not be a horrible thing that the headship of the religious system
Ooh.
was being removed, because it has not been a copacetic system. It's been very nasty in a lot of ways. It's been very bad. I mean, we think back through history in Christianity. Think about the Crusades. The Christians were beheading and hanging people who refused to be Christians. I mean, that is not the way Jesus worked. So that headship and authority coming off of an old religious structure, it's probably there's probably some redemption there, as you were saying, Darla.
That's something that's so easy to lose sight of. Either it's pounded by ourselves in ourselves constantly, or the balance. There again, there goes the balance and the intercessory to not be totally, I don't know, critical, but yet remain clean. Our own mindsets, not to lose our mindsets, for goodness sakes, especially if we found that place of balance.
Yeah. That righteousness and being submitted, in humility, to the Father. In that place of humility, he gives us the authority that we need to accomplish what is his heart in the earth. But we have to be on the right side of righteousness, and we have to be in that place of humility, because everything else is a bad alternative. It's not a good alternative. And so much of religion is, the negative religious community is so. It's like the two women in the codependence, again, going back to and even the layer of seeing Jezebel, because of putting on so much makeup, putting on so much blush, that control and manipulation has been so prevalent and I don't know about every denomination, but I'm sure it's every denomination, but we know from our own experience the control and manipulation of, all of the fear tactics and everything that's been used to control people to convert to Christianity. It never really seems to be about relationship with God. It's about converting to Christianity. And we're back there again, this other level of the nation, again, that people trying to convert, the Democrats are trying to convert the Republicans. The Republicans are trying to convert the Democrats. And they still can't see and are not position centered with a foundation, the right foundation. They still cannot see the place where they're well centered and they're in a strong place, that safe place, that safe land. Where's the land? Where's the dry land? Where can we be safe? Well, it's in that place of balance where the Lord gives us balance and helps us understand that both sides, despite all of their little curly cues and twists and turns and flaws, both sides need the cross, the appropriation of and the redemption of the cross. Both sides have to have that salvation. It's not about a conversion. It's about an introduction into relationship.
Yeah, and we all want to bear fruit that lasts. We don't want it, popcorn. But even, we've joked about how we used to get saved every Sunday. How do you produce fruit when you're a brand new baby every Sunday and you're never free to experience the Holy Spirit in his freedom?
Right.
And even these dreams, if we don't let ourselves stretch and absorb some possibilities, then we never get the fruit, and so there is nothing to last. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think there are seasons, and we're not always all in the same one, of preparation, of put your foot out there and stub your toe, or make a stand and bloody your nose or get a black eye, and it hurts us and it makes us kind of a laughing stock, but yet there is still redemption. And if we keep showing up, some of our key words, just show up, keep showing up, all things are going to be redeemed. And
Yeah.
any blunders are going to turn into a good example to help somebody know what not to do. Sometimes a bad example can be a good lasting example,
It's true.
another fruit that lasts once it's redeemed.
That's true. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I hate those lessons where you have to learn by watching what not to do. Those are difficult lessons. Those grieve me, but at the same time, God does use them. He absolutely uses them.
Well, this is a very good dream, and I think it's like a 411 because she also had a vision of the Christians being beheaded and all that. So that was a pre-warning that if you're not centered and that your heart, your makeup isn't right, that you can fall into a situation in this game of life that will take you out, and your authority will be taken away from you. So you have to be an active player, and you also have to be active in intercessory prayer, preempting and enforcing those rules, those boundaries. So it's very important for the body of Christ to step up. A lot of them feel like, well, we won the election, and they dust their hands off and say, well, there it is, there it's done. No, that's just the beginning. They have to enforce the rules. They have to enforce those boundaries. And it's really important. Otherwise, the enemy will come in and play unfairly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jill. And it's the reality is it doesn't matter who's in office. It really doesn't.
Right.
If the righteous will just stand and enforce the Constitution.
Right.
That's our job.
Yes.
And we do that in prayer. We do that in the spirit, but we also have to do it in the natural as well, right? That's why I love people who stand up and make a physical and a natural stand, because it affects it and it influences and inspires others who do not want to be under the tyranny of all of the control that we've lived under for decades, maybe longer than that, but it's been a very long time. That's a really deep rabbit hole, but
the picture of Samuel is just a little boy, but he was crowned with the jewels. God has heard. That's what his name means. So God has heard, and he has given us the wherewithal, the jewels, to affect the outcome of the game. So we need to step up and receive that responsibility. And I think that's what this whole message is about.
Absolutely. And Lord, the three of us come into agreement. Lord, your word talks about a threefold cord. We're a threefold cord. We're a tight knit threefold cord. And we stand together and we say, it is done. It is done. And you're still waking up your intercessors, your prophetic intercessors, and those who don't even understand what they're called to do. You're waking people up and you're giving them dreams so that they understand that it's time to take action, as Jill was saying. And we stand together and we stand in righteousness and we stand under your banner, your flag. And that is the only identity that we need. We have your DNA in us and we stand as your family and as your children. But we take authority over what you have given us to take authority in. And we trust you, Lord, to show us where we need to take those stands in a natural way, in a spiritual way, in whatever way you call us to participate in the name of Jesus. And we thank you for
Yes.
that. We thank you for that.
Yes,
Yeah, what a good dream.
absolutely.
That's a good one. I love processing dreams with you guys. You're my favorite. You're my favorite dream processors. I love it. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm gonna let you go. And thank everybody for being here and for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe so that you know when the three of us are on, because we are a strong threefold cord. And the Lord speaks through all of us, right? It's teamwork. No one person gets to do it all. It's called teamwork. And we love the team. We love team. And we love what God has knit together and the way he knits our hearts so strongly together. What an honor to be in the presence of these two lovely women. I don't say it enough, but what an honor. And I love it. So we will see you guys next time. And we thank you for being here.
Amen.
Bye.